Hello and welcome to the third lecture for Unit 11. It is Changes in American Society, and this is all about changes in American society brought on by immigrants coming in to the United States in the 1800s. During the 1800s, immigrants flocked to the United States. An immigrant with an E is someone who is leaving a country or exiting a country. Exiting, see? E, okay. See how that connects? Yeah, alright. So exiting is an immigrant, and once these immigrants settle in America, they become immigrants, which is the word that you're probably more familiar with, and they come into a country. Into, I. So immigrants are people who settle in a new country from another one, and during the 1800s, a whole bunch of them come to the United States. The journey to America was very difficult. Most made the journey in steerage, which is the cheapest deck on the ship, so it's the lowest of the low class. Very cheap. It's very crowded. It's very unhealthy, and because of these things, a lot of people got sick and died on the way in the journey. The only thing that I could think of that was something that you could visualize by this is in the movie Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio's character is in like the lowest class of the ship, and that's like what it was. That's what it was, like the lowest class. It was a lot worse than that because the Titanic was a nice ship, but yeah, it's like the lowest of the low class. Okay, so if it's really difficult to get here, you're possibly going to get sick, and you're possibly going to die. Why would you still want to come here? There are basically two categories of reasons immigrants would want to come to the United States, and they are put into push and pull factors. These forces push people out of their country and or pull people into a new country. So push factors are things that make people want to leave their original country, and pull factors are things that make people want to come to the United States. So more often than not, push factors, if something is pushy or it's pushing you out, those things are usually bad. Pull factors are usually attractions, things that are attracting you to come to the new country. So they're usually good things. So let's look at a few of those things. I use the example to compare this to help you visualize it as, let's say on a Saturday, you're sitting around your house and your friend calls you up and they say, you should come over, and you're kind of thinking, maybe I will, but I don't know if I want to. And there are push and pull factors that bring you to your friend's house. And just like there are push and pull factors for the immigrants. For the immigrants, it's overcrowding in Europe. There's not enough room in Europe, not enough room to farm, not enough room to set up new businesses, all this kind of stuff. Let's say at your house, there's not enough room because your parents they're having a whole bunch of friends over for dinner, a whole bunch of their friends, and it's crowded, it's uncomfortable, you got a whole bunch of old people asking you questions they don't really want to answer, like how's school and stuff that you don't really want to talk about with these people that you don't even know. It's awkward and it's overcrowded and you want to get out of there. So that's kind of pushing you out of your house. The next push factor for immigrants would be crop failure or famine. So there's not enough food in their old country, and they need to go somewhere else to find this food. Let's say at your house, your parents made all this food for their friends, but apparently you're not good enough to eat this food because it's just for their friends, so you'd have to go find your own food. So it's pushing you out of your house to go to your friend's house because your friend has food at their house. Some pull factors, they include freedom for these immigrants. These immigrants are going to leave the oppression of their old country, come to the United States, start a new life, start new businesses, all this kind of stuff. You would get to escape the oppression of answering all those questions they don't want to talk about and talking to all these old people that you don't really want to talk to, and go over to your friend's house and just kind of hang out. Another thing for immigrants is economic opportunities. These immigrants could set up new businesses. They could have new farmland and all this kind of good stuff. I don't really have a good one for your friend's house. Let's say your friend says that you can set up a lemonade stand at his house. I don't know, whatever. The last one for immigrants is abundance of land. You could go over and get a lot of cheap land in the United States, and that meant that you could set up a farm or set up something where you can make some money, and there's just a whole bunch of land you could spread out and all this kind of stuff. At your friend's house, he's got a whole bunch of space. There's nobody there. It's just wide open. You can hang out and do whatever you want. So push factors push people out of their country. Pull factors draw people to the United States. The first group that we look at are the Germans. The Germans are the largest immigrant group of the 1800s. They settled in cities and on the frontier, and many of these Germans were drawn to the fertile lands of Wisconsin and the Midwest. We have a lot of German heritage around the Washington, Herman, New Haven area, and it's the same throughout the Midwest. Wisconsin had just been opened up and organized into a territory so people could go up there and get a whole bunch of cheap land that was basically all for the taking. Some of these German immigrants opened businesses. Some of the German immigrants were also Jewish, and those Jewish German immigrants worked as traveling salespeople. These traveling salespeople would travel through the frontier. They brought basic supplies that would help out the people in the frontier, like pens, needles, pots, and pans. And another thing that they do is it's a way to carry news back and forth from the east and to the west, because these traveling salesmen are going back and forth. German immigrants strongly influenced American culture. We get the idea of kindergartens, gymnasiums, Christmas trees, and hamburgers, all from the Germans. So German immigrants influence American culture and the things that you know today a lot. Immigrants moved westward in the mid-1800s. Public land sold for really cheap. It was $1.25 an acre, so that's like $30-40 an acre today. So it's still really, really cheap. This cheap land pulled many immigrants to America. So the abundance of cheap land is a pull factor, because it pulled them away from their country and pulled them to America. Pulled. Okay. Many Scandinavian immigrants fled poverty and moved to the Midwest to farm. British immigrants also left Britain because they were farming. They left because of a land shortage, and if you are farming and there is no land, you're kind of in trouble. So you go to America, settle in the Midwest, get a farm set up, buy some cheap land for $1.25 an acre, and both of these groups, the British immigrants and the Scandinavian immigrants who move to the Midwest to farm, set up the Midwest as a farming region. So Midwest equals farming. So I mean, that's kind of the same way it is today, but these people are the ones that set that up. The Irish flee starvation. The Irish had been denied rights by the British for centuries. The British were Protestant and the Irish were Catholic. These two groups do not get along, okay? The British are obviously in control of like Parliament and the King and all this kind of stuff, and they are in control of Ireland. So they have the power over the Irish and over the Catholics, and they're oppressing them, and they're denying their rights. They won't let them go to school. They won't let them vote, and all this kind of stuff. And because of all these things, the Irish become very poor. And in 1845, things got worse for the Irish because a disease killed their main food source, the potato. This caused a food shortage, or famine. And the Irish potato famine killed 1 million people in Ireland, and another 1.5 million left the country, and many of those came to America. Some went to Australia, some went to Great Britain, but the majority of these Irish immigrants who are fleeing the Irish potato famine are going to the United States. Because of this massive Irish immigration, by 1850, the Irish have made up 1/4 of the populations in cities like New York, Boston, Philadelphia, and Baltimore. Once they get to these cities, the Irish immigrants were uneducated, unskilled, so they had to take jobs that no one else really wanted. They couldn't get nice jobs because they weren't educated, no one would hire them. They didn't have very many specialized skills. So Irish women usually took jobs washing dirty laundry for people or were servants in the home. Men worked on railroads or dug canals. This was very dangerous work. A lot of Irishmen died. There's a saying that there's an Irishman buried underneath each railroad tie, just to give you an idea of how many people died. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, it's obviously not literally true, but it's, somewhat true. So what was life like for these people once they did get to America? Many immigrants went north. And why would they go north? They need jobs. And where are all the jobs? Jobs are in factories. And where are most of the factories? They are in the north. So the north had more factories. And in the south, there's a lot of work to be done. And there's a lot of need for labor. But the slaves are being used for that labor down there. And you don't have to pay slaves every week like you would have to pay Irish people. Even though or other immigrants. Immigrants caused a population explosion in cities, and overcrowding was the result. Cities were unprepared for this growth. There weren't enough buildings for people to live in, not enough room. Overcrowding happened. Cramped living quarters with little fresh air or sunlight was common. Most cities also lacked an adequate sewer system. So not only are you cramped into a space with little fresh air or sunlight, you're also standing around in human feces and smelling it all day, and it's just a terrible thing. So it's pretty depressing conditions, and when depressing conditions arise, crime starts to flourish. And cities could not handle all of this crime, and because most did not have a police force. So crime was on the rise, violence, a lot of stuff, bad stuff happening in these overcrowded, cramped neighborhoods. Some city politicians helped immigrants, basically in hopes that they would get the immigrants' votes, and some used different tactics for that, and corruption leads from this. A lot of this stuff, the bad conditions, the crime, living quarters, the depressing conditions, the crime, the politicians, all this stuff. If you've ever seen the movie Gangs of New York, another Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Second mention for him today. He probably needs the publicity, so all the millions of people that will see this video, go out and check him out. He's an unknown actor. So that's a movie about Irish immigration and all the bad stuff that happened. So opposition to immigrants. So with this influx of immigration, people kind of some people don't really like it. Immigrants face prejudice or a negative opinion that is not based on fact. So basically it's hating somebody for something that isn't true. You think something, but it's not even true, and you hate them for that. People who want to eliminate foreign influence are known as nativist. Some nativists set up secret societies where they promise not to hire. So they promise not to hire or vote for immigrants because they don't want people like that running things. When they were asked about these secret societies, people would respond, "I know nothing about it." Know nothing about it. And soon these secret societies and these nativists form the Know Nothing Party. So I know nothing about it, Know Nothing Party. Okay. The Know Nothing Party wants to ban Catholics and immigrants from holding office. They also want to cut off immigration to the United States and put a 21-year wait on becoming an American citizen. So you have to wait 21 years to become a citizen. It's a long time. Although the Know Nothing Party had some success, they got a few governors elected, the party could not agree within itself in its northern and southern branches on the issue of slavery, and they soon disappeared. So that is how American society kind of changes: the growth in cities, the factory work, and all this, the conditions that worsen, the opposition to immigration because of the massive influx of immigration in the 1800s. Hope you enjoyed this lecture.